When Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed, Lot escaped with his 2 daughters. His wife and their fiancés didn't make it. In the aftermath, Lot's daughters came up with a plan to rebuild their lives. Once for each of them, they got their father drunk, slept with him, got pregnant, and bore sons. The older of the 2 daughters named her son Moab, which resembles the way you'd say "from father" in Hebrew, which is gross. And I'm not ashamed to say so. I'm talking about it because it happened. I'm talking about it because it was someone's real life. Moab's real life was to be both son and grandson to Lot, both son and half-brother to Lot's daughter, cousin, half-brother, uncle, and nephew to Ben-Ami, and so on and so on. That's what happened. That's how he happened. And it's gross. And it doesn't make it any less gross to me that they probably didn't think it was gross. It doesn't seem to have occurred to Lot's daughters that their plan was nauseating. We never hear what Lot thought of it all when he woke up from his drunken stupors and found his daughters pregnant. We never hear anything from Lot ever again, so we can only guess. Both Ben-Ami and Moab had normal, one might even say successful, lives after the circumstances of their birth. Both grew up, got married, hopefully not to relatives, but, I doubt it. And they had children, and they had children. And soon enough, there were entire nations of people descended from and named after them. An entire nation named Moab, which is not weird because everyone comes from father. That's how human reproduction works. But this from father is gross because of whose father it refers to. And maybe that's the worst part. The gross sins of rape and incest. This time, they worked. Lot's daughters got what they wanted. They saved themselves from destitution by raping their father and bearing his children. And because those children were sons, it worked. And hardly an eye was batted. Those children had lives that worked to the degree that they lived and lived well enough to leave a legacy retained under the names that not only alluded to rape and incest, but also seemed to celebrate those sins with seemingly no one to bat eyes or anything else about that either. And thousands of years later, here I am batting all the eyes and unashamedly calling it all gross. And I'm also looking around at other people's legacies, at the lives of famous people whose lives have worked and have even been successful and whose sins are gross. And sometimes we all agree that what they did was gross enough that we should consider the people themselves gross, and their fame should be canceled, and their legacies tarnished, and their contributions to popular culture, well, they still get preserved because people can still make money off of them. But the truly noble and not gross among us will boycott them or enjoy them ironically or with all the necessary caveats and asterisks. And I'm not saying that we should or shouldn't do any of that. I guess what I'm saying is that it's all gross. Sin is gross. Humanity sins. Humanity is gross. We imagine ourselves progressing through time and improving, and all we're really doing is adding and subtracting things from the list of things we consider gross. All we're really doing is trading the playing cards of gross across generations. What will our children consider gross that we are disgustingly comfortable with? What will they be comfortable with that shocks our tender sensibilities? Always something. Always gross. Is there an answer? Is there a solution? Is it to find everything gross to the degree that everything is permissible because avoiding the gross is impossible? Or is it to find everything gross to the degree that no human activity can be enjoyed at all without guilt and nausea? Or maybe it's to give up and deny and label no thing gross, for who are we to judge? And yuck not anyone else's yum, lest your yum be yucked. I'm not being rhetorical. I honestly want to know, how does one navigate the legacy we've inherited and are passing down to our children? This gross legacy of the human condition. What can we do with it? God placed Moabites in the genealogy of Jesus. God, who knows exactly how gross we are, no matter how noble we pretend to be, became human to save humanity. God is the only not gross Father, and He calls totally gross humans His children, and He did and does what good fathers do. He washes the gross off the children He loves, which is all of us. He loves all of us. He saved all of us with the gross death of His only Son. What can we do with that? We can try. Not to hunt down the truly gross among us and call them so and cancel them or out them or tell their story for shock and disgust in search of approval from other people who, like us, are better at hiding their grossness. No. We can try to turn away from the gross that we've been rescued from. We can pass down a better legacy. One that includes Moab and celebrities and victims of rape and incest, and even gross perpetrators thereof, but includes them not to approve their gross, but to say even their gross can be forgiven, removed, washed away, even the grossest. Even me. You and I are dust and breath, loved by God, bought by Jesus. This podcast is written and produced by me, Ethan Cherney, a pastor at Bethel Lutheran Church in Menasha, Wisconsin, member of the Wisconsin Evangelical Lutheran Synod. Outro music arranged and performed by Mr. Peter Shawy, who is like the goats that lead the flock. Keep in touch. Reach out to us on Twitter or Facebook at Dust and Breath Pod, or send an email to dustandbreathpod@gmail.com. Or you could write us a review, recommend a episode to somebody else. That's the only way other people find out about the show. Now go, do what God called you to do, be who God made you to be, see what God can do with dust and breath and faith in Jesus, His Son.